All right, so you've got this passion, right? Maybe you're already like sharing it online, putting yourself out there. But how do you actually turn that into a business? How do you go from just creating content to actually making real money, like building a sustainable income? That's what we're diving into today, specifically turning passion into profit with online courses.
Yeah, and to really get into this, we're going to be pulling insights from turning passion into profit content creators, selling online courses.pdf. It's a really in-depth look at this whole world.
Mhm.
And I think what we really want to do today is pull out those key shifts that creators need to make, not just in like the practical steps, but in their thinking, in the way they approach this whole thing. Because it's really about building a business, right? Not just making a couple videos or posts.
100%. It's not just about making a course. It's about building a business using a course. And the first shift, and this is like even before you think about outlines or any of that, is a mindset shift. It's going from chasing those likes and, platform metrics to really focusing on your audience and like what they actually need, what problems they have.
Totally. And here's something that might surprise you. The document actually points this out. Just having knowledge isn't enough. What people are really paying for when they buy a course is something a little bit different.
Yeah, they're not just paying for information, they're paying for something more. And we're going to get into exactly what that is. We're also going to look at all the other important aspects of building a successful course business, like how to create a product that actually serves a purpose and how to price it strategically so it reflects the value you're providing. And of course, we're going to talk about visibility. How do you actually get people to see your course?
So much to get into. So let's start with that first shift we talked about, from entertainer to educator.
Okay, so think about this. There's a big difference between someone who's creating content just to get likes and views and someone who's creating content to actually serve an audience to help them solve real problems. And the document makes this really interesting point. It's like your content goes from being the whole point to actually being a tool within your business. Yeah, totally. Like you might get a viral video, maybe make some ad revenue, but that's not a business. A real business is about creating consistent income and building relationships with your audience that actually go beyond, just a quick like or a comment. It's about creating real value. And selling courses, that's a way to facilitate that exchange of value.
Absolutely. And that requires a shift in mindset. Think about this. You've got creators who are constantly trying to feed the algorithm right, chasing trends, using popular formats just to get those clicks. It's all externally focused.
It's like you said before, it's like a hamster wheel. You're just constantly trying to keep up with whatever the algorithm wants, and the content can end up feeling a little bit shallow.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with someone who's focused on solving real problems for their audience.
Yeah.
It starts with understanding what their audience is struggling with. What are their pain points? What questions are they asking? What are they trying to achieve? And the focus becomes internal. It's about creating content that provides real inherent value because it directly addresses those needs.
And that's where the online course fits in, right? It's a solution to a problem. It's not just random information. It's structured. It's comprehensive. It's designed to get people results.
Right. It's about becoming a trusted resource.
Yeah.
So how do creators actually make this shift? How do they go from entertainer to educator? Well, the document outlines some really specific strategies.
Yeah, it actually lays out a really clear roadmap for how to reposition yourself in the eyes of your audience. And the first one is it's about sharing your expertise, not just the highlights, not just the perfect finished product, but the process, the mistakes, the lessons learned along the way.
Yeah, that authenticity is huge. People connect with that. Another thing is engaging with your audience, answering their questions, having conversations, showing that you're actually listening and you care.
Absolutely. And it's not just about responding to every single comment. It's about really providing thoughtful answers, showing that you're truly an expert. The document also emphasizes the importance of focusing on a specific niche. It gives some really good examples like, organic gardening for beginners or freelance graphic design pricing. It's about becoming the go-to expert in a specific area.
Yeah, when you have that niche, you build a reputation and attract a very targeted audience who are highly motivated to learn from you. It makes it so much easier to stand out and build that authority. And then sharing success stories is huge, not just your own, but also the successes of your audience. Show people that your methods work.
Right. And this is such a powerful form of social proof because it's not just you saying, hey, my stuff works. It's other people saying, this actually helped me achieve X, Y, and Z. And that's really compelling. And finally, offering valuable free resources, things like checklists or guides or maybe even a mini workshop. The document calls this a lead magnet, which is basically something you offer in exchange for someone's email address. It's a great way to showcase your teaching style, build trust, and demonstrate your expertise before you ever ask for a sale.
Exactly. It's like giving people a little taste of what you can do for them. So when you combine all of these strategies, you start to shift the perception your audience has of you. You go from just being someone who entertains them to someone who can actually guide them, who can help them achieve something meaningful. And that's the foundation for successfully selling online courses.
It makes so much sense. But now let's get to that key question we teased earlier. In a world where information is everywhere and it's mostly free, what are people actually paying for when they invest in an online course?
Okay, so as the document points out, we live in an age of information overload, right? You can literally learn how to do almost anything online for free. So if people could just get the information they need and achieve their goals, online courses wouldn't exist. The fact that they're thriving tells us something important. People are paying for more than just information.
Right. It's not just the what, it's the how, it's the why, it's everything in between. The document actually uses this great analogy with fitness. We all know we should exercise and eat healthy, but the information itself isn't the problem.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is all the stuff that gets in the way. The document lists things like not knowing where to start, feeling overwhelmed, lacking motivation, not having feedback, doubting your own ability to actually achieve the goal, missing that structure and accountability, all of those things.
Yeah, it's like having all the ingredients for a cake but no recipe and nobody to show you how to actually bake it.
Exactly. And that's what successful course creators understand. They're not selling information. They're selling a path. They provide that structure, the steps, the support. That's what people are actually paying for.
It's like being a guide. It's like having a coach, someone who can actually take you from where you are now to where you want to be. The document talks about mapping the gap between your audience's current state and their desired future state. Can you break that down a little bit?
Sure. So every student has a present reality, right? Their struggles, their frustrations, their unmet desires. And then they have this vision of a future state, what they want to achieve, how they want to feel. And the course creator's job is to bridge that gap. It's not about dumping everything you know on them. It's about curating the specific pieces of information that will help them get from point A to point B.
It's like those choose your own adventure books. You're creating the path and guiding them through it. The document gives a really good example with healthy eating. Someone might feel overwhelmed by all the conflicting nutrition advice out there. They might not have time to cook elaborate meals, but they really want to feel confident cooking healthy food. They want to feel more energetic. They want to enjoy food without stress.
Yeah, and so the course creator maps out that journey for them. Maybe they provide a simple meal plan system, easy to follow recipes, time-saving cooking tips, strategies for dealing with cravings or eating out. It's about providing those specific solutions that help them achieve their desired state.
It's all about translating your knowledge and experience into tangible benefits. It's not just about saying, I learned this. It's about saying, here's how you can achieve this specific result. And that result, that's what people are willing to pay for.
The document gives some great examples. Instead of saying something weak like, I learned how to manage my time effectively after years of struggle, a strong course would focus on the outcome. Something like, this course will teach you a proven system to reclaim 5 hours per week, significantly reduce overwhelm, and finally finish those important projects. Or instead of saying, I built a successful freelance business, it would be more like, land your first 3 high-paying freelance clients within the next 90 days, even if you have 0 experience. You see the difference.
Yeah, it's super clear. It's not just about the skill, it's about the outcome, the result. People invest in results. So we've talked about this shift from entertainer to educator and understanding what people are actually buying. Now let's talk about building a product with purpose.
Okay, so it's not enough to just have knowledge and understand your audience. You need to actually design your course as an experience that leads to that transformation. It's about thinking beyond just the individual lessons.
Right. It's about taking all of that knowledge and turning it into something that's actually going to get people results. And the document talks about asking a different question. Instead of starting with, what do I know? You start with, what change do I want my student to experience? That becomes your guiding star.
Yeah, and the document outlines a really specific process for building a course with purpose. The first step is defining that transformation. What is that specific measurable result you want your students to achieve? It could be something like launch a profitable Etsy shop within 90 days, or confidently negotiate a salary increase of at least 10%. You have to be crystal clear about that end goal.
Right. It's like setting a destination. You need to know where you're going before you can map out the route. And once you have that destination, those key milestones become the modules of your course. They're like the major checkpoints along the journey.
Exactly. And then you break down those milestones into smaller, actionable steps. Those become your individual lessons. And here's a key point. Focus on the need-to-know information. Cut out all the fluff, the nice-to-know stuff. Your students don't need to know everything. They just need to know what they need to know to achieve the result.
Right. It's about keeping things concise and focused so they don't get overwhelmed. It's also about being really intentional with your content and making sure it's all directly contributing to that final outcome. And it's not just about passively consuming information either, right? The document talks about designing activities that encourage application.
Yeah, exactly. Give your students things like worksheets or exercises or even real-world projects.
Yeah.
Make them actually apply what they're learning. That's where the real learning happens.
It's one thing to understand something intellectually. It's another thing to actually be able to put it into practice. And finally, you need to think about support. What kind of support will your students need to actually succeed? This could be live Q&A calls, a community forum where they can connect with each other, or maybe personalize feedback on their work.
All of these elements work together to create an experience that's designed to get results. It's about being intentional. So you've got your core idea and you know what transformation you want your students to experience. Now, how do you actually shape that into a course that people are going to want to buy?
Right. How do you actually make it a desirable product? The document talks about a few key elements that you need to pay attention to. The first one, and we've already talked about this a bit, is that clarity of the outcome. The promise of your course needs to be really specific and compelling. Vague promises like, learn social media marketing, just don't cut it.
A strong course promise would be something like this. Gain your first 1,000 engaged Instagram followers for your small business in the next 90 days using proven strategies. It's specific, it's measurable, and it's something that people actually want. You also need to understand the starting point of your ideal student. What do they already know? What are their existing skills? This will help you tailor the content and make sure it's relevant and accessible to them.
You also need to think about the structure and flow of the course. How does the information build on itself? How do you prevent overwhelm? The lessons should flow in a logical way that makes sense to the student. And engagement is key. How do you keep people interested?
Yeah, think about incorporating different types of content. Videos, text summaries, audio explanations, exercises, case studies. Not only does this make it more engaging, but it also caters to different learning styles. And it's important to anticipate potential roadblocks. Where are students likely to get stuck? You can address these up front by including troubleshooting guides, FAQs, and maybe even some motivational pep talks.
Yeah, those little things can really make a big difference. It shows that you've actually thought about their journey and you're there to support them every step of the way. And don't forget to remind them of the why. What's the bigger picture? What will achieving this transformation mean for them in their lives? That keeps them motivated and focused on the end goal.
It's all about creating an experience that goes beyond just delivering information. It's about motivation, support, and guidance. And all of this starts with having that crystal clear transformation goal. That's what guides everything else. Your content, your marketing, your pricing, even your student success.
Totally. The transformation is the foundation. Without it, you're kind of just building a course for the sake of building a course, which is fine if you're just doing it for fun. But if you want to create a business, that transformation is key. Okay, so you've built this awesome course. You know what your students are going to achieve. Now the question is, how much do you charge for it?
This is where a lot of creators get stuck. They either undercharge out of fear or they just kind of guess. But the document makes it very clear. Pricing is strategic. It reflects value. It communicates your positioning.
It's definitely not just about covering your costs or matching your competitors. It's about understanding why people are willing to pay for something.
Yeah.
And the document delves into the psychology of pricing. It talks about things like the pain of the problem and the value of the outcome.
Yeah, so how much is that problem actually costing them in terms of money, time, stress, missed opportunities? The bigger the pain, the more they're willing to pay for a solution. And then there's the value of the outcome. What will achieving this transformation mean for them? How will it improve their lives? Will it help them earn more money, save time, get healthier, achieve a dream?
The greater the perceived value, the more they'll be willing to invest. And your credibility and the level of trust you've built with your audience plays a huge role. If people trust you, if they believe in you, they're more likely to pay a premium for your expertise.
Exactly. And sometimes a higher price can actually signal higher quality or a more exclusive experience. The document also talks about psychological triggers like urgency and scarcity, limited time offers, enrollment caps, things like that. These can tap into that fear of missing out and encourage people to take action.
Yeah, we've all seen those countdown timers and those only a few spots left
I like that.
messages. They work because they create that sense of urgency. And finally, the way you present your pricing can also have an impact. The document calls this comparison and anchoring. Basically, it's about how you position your price relative to other options.
The document also talks about creating tiered pricing, which is basically offering different versions of your course at different price points.
Yeah, so you might have a basic tier that includes just the core content, then a standard tier that includes everything in the basic tier, plus some additional bonuses like access to a community or maybe some live Q&A calls, and then a premium tier that includes everything in the standard tier, plus even more personalized support like one-on-one coaching.
This tiered approach is really smart because it caters to different budgets and levels of commitment. It uses anchoring to make the lower tiers look more affordable. It allows for upselling. And ultimately, it helps you maximize your revenue by attracting a wider range of buyers.
So there's a lot to consider when it comes to pricing, but it's definitely worth putting in the effort to get it right. Because the right price not only reflects the value you're providing, it also helps you build a sustainable business. Okay, so we've talked about building a course with purpose and pricing it strategically. Now let's talk about visibility.
You can have the most amazing course in the world, but if nobody knows about it, it's not going to help anyone.
Yeah.
So many creators fall into this trap of thinking, if I build it, they will come. But that's just not how it works in the online world.
Yeah, the document calls visibility the real currency, and that's so true. Because without visibility, you can't build an audience, you can't make sales. And the document talks about this shift from just posting content to actually building a demand engine. It's a more strategic and proactive approach to getting your course in front of the right people.
And the first step is understanding your ideal student. Who are they? What are their problems? Where do they hang out online? Once you know who you're trying to reach, you can choose your platform strategically. You don't have to be everywhere. Focus on one or two platforms where your ideal students are most active.
And then create valuable, relevant content that actually speaks to their needs and their problems. This is what attracts them to you in the first place. And it should be free content. This could be social media posts, blog articles, videos, podcast episodes, whatever works best for your audience and your niche.
And this free content acts as a magnet. It attracts the right people. But then you need a way to capture those leads. That's where your email list comes in.
Right. Your email list is one of the most valuable assets you can have as a course creator because social media algorithms are unpredictable. But your email list, that's yours. You own that.
Right.
And you can use it to build relationships with your audience, nurture them, and eventually sell to them. But the key is to provide value. Don't just spam people with sales pitches.
Exactly. Give them valuable content. Answer their questions. Share your insights. And then when you do promote your course, do it naturally. Weave it into your content. Make it relevant to what you're already talking about.
Yeah.
So the way to think about social media is it's a magnet. It attracts people. But then you direct them to your email list. And your email list is where you actually nurture them and convert them into paying customers.
So social media is for attracting and engaging. Email is for nurturing and converting. And then your website or sales page is where the actual transaction takes place. And the document emphasizes this point. Visibility fuels the entire process. If you're not consistently getting your message in front of the right people, everything else falls apart.
So let's talk about launching.
Okay, so you've built your audience, you've nurtured them, now it's time to actually launch your course. And the document makes this really important distinction between releasing a video and opening a store. Launching a course is more like opening a store. It requires planning, resources, effort, coordination.
Yeah, think about it. Releasing a video is pretty simple. You upload it, you share it, maybe you check the stats, and then you move on. But opening a store, that's a whole different thing. You're stocking the shelves, training your staff, generating buzz, planning a grand opening, and then there's the ongoing marketing and customer service. Launching a course is similar. It's not just a one-off event. It's a process.
And a big part of that process is what the document calls warming up your audience. You don't just suddenly announce your course out of the blue and expect people to buy it. You need to prepare them. You need to build anticipation.
Exactly. People rarely buy courses on impulse. They need time to understand what it's about, to trust you as the instructor, to see the value in it for themselves. So the pre-launch phase is crucial. It's about getting your audience ready to buy.
So what might that pre-launch phase look like?
Well, you might start by seeding the topic of your course, weeks or even months in advance. You create free content that's related to the core themes of your course. Then as you get closer to the launch, you officially announce it. You share the transformation it offers. You tell people who it's for. You might even give them a behind-the-scenes peek into the creation process.
Yeah, that behind-the-scenes stuff is really cool because it humanizes you and makes the whole process feel more real. And offering valuable pre-launch content is huge. Things like workshops, challenges, guides. This gives people a taste of what they can expect from your course and allows you to grow your email list with highly qualified leads.
And it's important to address any objections or concerns that people might have. Be upfront about those things. Answer their questions. Provide reassurance. Sharing social proof is also really powerful.
Right.
Testimonials, case studies, success stories. These show people that your course actually works.
Yeah, social proof is like that extra nudge that people need to actually take the leap and buy. And finally, building a wait list. This creates anticipation and gives you a sense of how much demand there is for your course. And you can offer a bonus for people who join the waitlist, like an early bird discount or some exclusive content.
So by the time your course actually launches, your audience is informed. They're excited. And they're ready to buy. And then once they're in the course, the relationship doesn't end there, right?
Yeah.
It's important to keep them engaged.
Absolutely. Because happy students become repeat customers and raving fans. They leave glowing reviews, they tell their friends, they become part of your community. So how do you keep them engaged?
Well, you need a strong onboarding process, something that welcomes them into the course and makes them feel supported. And building community is huge. Create a space where your students can connect with each other, ask questions, and share their wins.
Yeah, that community aspect is so valuable because it creates that sense of belonging. It makes people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And it takes the pressure off you because you're not the only one answering questions and providing support. And ongoing check-ins are a great way to stay connected with your students, see how they're doing, offer encouragement, gather feedback.
Exactly. Celebrate their wins, highlight their successes, and gather feedback. Ask them what they're loving, what they're struggling with, what they'd like to see more of. This feedback is invaluable for continuously improving your course.
It also shows your students that you actually care about their experience and that you're committed to helping them succeed. And then once they finish the course, don't just forget about them. Offer them exclusive alumni discounts on your other products or services. Create a pathway for their continued learning and growth.
So launching is just the beginning. The real work starts after the launch. Okay, so let's talk about income stacking. This is something that a lot of course creators don't think about.
Yeah, this is about going beyond just the course itself and creating multiple streams of income from your expertise. And the document makes this really interesting point. When someone buys your course, they're essentially saying three things. I trust you, I'm committed to this, and I'm willing to invest.
That's powerful. And you can leverage that to create additional offers.
So what are some examples?
Well, you could create more advanced courses. You could create membership programs that offer ongoing support and content. You could do group coaching, one-on-one coaching. You could create and sell digital products like templates or workbooks.
You could even host live workshops or events. There's so many possibilities. And the document highlights the benefits of offering things like memberships, coaching, and templates.
Yeah, because memberships provide recurring revenue. Coaching is higher ticket, and templates are semi-passive income.
It's all about creating a more stable and predictable income stream. And the document uses this great analogy of a ladder. You attract people with free content, you capture their email addresses with a lead magnet, you sell them your core course, and then from there you can offer them higher value products and services.
So that $500 course customer might become a $5,000 customer over time. And the initial course sale becomes the entry point to a whole ecosystem of offerings.
It's a long-term strategy, and it's about maximizing the lifetime value of each customer. And it all starts with that initial course. So now let's talk about tools and tech.
Because you're going to need some tools to actually run your online course business.
Okay.
But the document emphasizes this. Don't get bogged down in the tech. Focus on the tools that actually help you streamline your workflows and enhance the student experience.
So what are the essentials?
You definitely need a course hosting platform. This is where your students access your content. You need an email marketing service. This is how you communicate with your audience and promote your course. You need a payment processor so you can actually get paid. You might want a dedicated video hosting platform for your videos. You need a website or a sales page to showcase your course and make it easy for people to buy it. And some basic design tools can be helpful for creating graphics and visuals.
Those are the basics. Now, what are some of the things that creators often get distracted by?
Well, some people get caught up in complex funnel software before they've even mastered the basics. Others think they need expensive video equipment when really good lighting and audio are more important. Some creators try to be active on too many platforms or too many communication channels, and others get too reliant on AI, or they're constantly switching between different tools.
Yeah, it's easy to get overwhelmed by all the options out there, but the key is to keep it simple. Focus on the tools that actually solve your problems and make your life easier. And don't forget about the human element. Tech can help you automate and streamline, but it can't replace you.
Yeah, exactly. Use tech to enhance your efforts, not replace them. So let's wrap up by talking about some of the most common mistakes that course creators make.
Yes, because nobody's perfect. And we all make mistakes. But it's helpful to learn from the mistakes of others so we can avoid them ourselves. And the document outlines some really common pitfalls.
Yeah, one of the biggest ones is what we talked about before, the just build it and they will come mentality. So many creators create their courses in isolation, without validating their idea, without building an audience, without testing their offer.
And then they're surprised when nobody buys it. But it makes sense, right? You can't just assume that people are going to magically find your course. You have to actively put it in front of them. You have to market it. You have to build demand.
Exactly. And another common mistake is pricing too low. This devalues your expertise, makes it hard to run a profitable business, and often attracts the wrong kind of students.
The ones who are just looking for a bargain and not really committed to the transformation. And then there's the curse of knowledge. This is where experts try to teach too much.
Yeah, they overwhelm their students with information, which can lead to confusion and frustration. Remember, focus on the minimum effective dose. Teach what they need to know to get the result. And then, of course, there's launching to no one.
You can have the best launch strategy in the world, but if you're launching to an empty room, it's not going to work. And finally, perfectionism.
So many creators get stuck in this cycle of trying to make their courses perfect. They spend months or even years tweaking and refining and never actually launch.
And meanwhile, they're missing out on valuable feedback and opportunities. It's better to launch an imperfect version and then improve it over time based on feedback from your students.
So those are some of the biggest mistakes. But remember, even if you make some of these mistakes, it's not the end of the world. You can always learn and adjust.
Exactly. It's all part of the process. So let's recap what we've talked about today. The shift from entertainer to educator, focusing on transformation over information, building a course with purpose, pricing strategically, prioritizing visibility, launching intentionally, and building a sustainable ecosystem.
By understanding these principles, you can go from just sharing your passion online to building a profitable and impactful online course business.
And as you move forward, think about this. What's the biggest problem your ideal audience faces? And how could a well-designed course not just inform them about it, but actually help them overcome it? That's the power of online courses. It's about creating real transformation. Thanks for joining us today.